Yo, 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 what's going on, you guys? It's your boy 3 Stacks in this thing, baby. Representing Team Kings of Games, always and forever. Today I'm coming at you guys with some fresh content. This has no correlation to deck profiles or anything of that nature. It's still pretty Yu-Gi-Oh related. What I've got here, also it's been broken down into 4 different segments, but what I've got here is another top 10 video for you guys. I feel like it's just these are really helpful, especially when you can see when you can get different perspectives from multiple Yu-Gi-Tubers and or content creators or just Yu-Gi-Oh players in general. Just kind of collecting that information, getting one side of the story, the other side of the story, seeing a different perspective, putting that together based in, pretty much you come to your conclusion after you put those two together based off of just representation and results. Because the numbers don't lie. You're going to hear that, let's say, for example, somebody might feel, well, Striker's the best deck because it just won a YCS. Or then Orca's the best deck because it just won a YCS. And it'll come down to stuff like that. But ultimately, it's like whatever has the more numbers. Whatever deck has high representation. Whatever deck has saw more success and has more longevity. Ultimately, those are the decisions that can be really difficult for someone to come to that conclusion on their own. Like even me personally, I can't just decide, oh, these are the 10 best decks by myself. I have to research. So hopefully this video will be helpful for you guys in that aspect, just to give you that a little bit more insight. Because whenever I break down these top 10s, I don't just do the top 10 for you guys. I'll also explain the strengths and weaknesses and the reason why this deck is as far up or as down below on the list as it is, and why this certain deck didn't get the spot that you felt it deserved. Because we're trying to be as unbiased and as universal and generic as possible. We're not trying to have one side. Like, for example, if it was up to me on these top 10s, I'd put Hero to Perfection at #1 every time, but we don't see Hero top YCSs. So it's gonna be top 10 meta decks, top 10 rogue decks, then we've got top 10 budget meta decks, then we got top 10 budget rogue decks. So we've got meta and rogue, which is just pretty much just standard, it's not budget, and then we've got a whole nother twist, which is going to be meta and rogue, but for budget players. So this first part is just going to be about meta. So I'm coming at you guys with the top 10 best decks of today's current format as things stand, with the full effect of the ban list, with everything as things stand, with, in addition to that, all the results that we've gathered from all the previous YCSs and regionals that have transpired thus far since the previous ban list. So coming in number 10, I decided to give it to Grand Manju. Grand Manju originally never had his deck, and he doesn't really have an archetype. The reason why we call it just a Grand Manju deck is because it's just the easiest way for you to identify the strategy, but it is actually a going second OTK deck. I find that it's very beautiful in 2019 to see a remove from play strategy based off Grand Manju literally win not one but 2 YCSs, which are probably the most upper echelon, highest, pretty much like the most top tier of events that you're going to see besides like a UDS or National. So when you see Grand Manju winning a YCS, you kind of have to ask yourself the question again, is this really rogue? Is this really rogue? And then you see it top 2 YCSs, and then also it tops like PPGs, and it gets, you'll see in the top tables of so many different competitive events, and I'm starting to sit here and I'm thinking, because originally Grand Manju wasn't going to be on my list, and I was like, dude, I can't take it away from, Grand Manju. I mean, the deck has the numbers, it has the representation and the results to back up why this deck is one of the 10 best decks of the format. It's an OTK strategy. It's nothing that's going to hurt your brain too much. It's pretty simplistic. I think there's a lot more thinking that you have to apply based on the matchup. Like when you play against combo decks, breaking those boards can be pretty complex. I think in those certain matchups, you kind of do have to know what you're doing. But then when you play decks like Striker and, other decks of that nature, it can be a little bit more simplistic dealing with those decks and combating those boards. But Grand Manju, it's pretty simple. I'm not going to over-explain an OTK deck. It's just an OTK deck. The strategy is capable of going first. Essentially, your win condition is Grand Manju, but the deck is able to win without him, which is another strength, which is kind of like the accrutement that the deck had, but it's an accrutement that doesn't become an Achilles heel, where, oh, my strength is also my weakness, and I'm losing games because I don't have Manju. I've seen Grand Manju body people without ever dropping the Manju, which is cool. So, number 10, we have Grand Manju. In number 9, I decided to give it to Dragon Link / and/or Guard Dragon, and all that entails. That means every single variant possible you can think of that is a Guard Dragon deck and a Dragon Link. Now, Thunder, you guys are going to say, well, then that means Thunder, Thunder Dragon Link. Whatever that Surfer Thunder Dragon Link deck is, I put that included with the Thunder variants because I have Thunder on this list as well. And what I put was in parentheses all variants. You'll see Thunder in all variants. So I know that Thunder has a Dragon Link variant, but that's included with the Thunder variants. So no Thunder Dragon. Thunder Dragon Link is not number 9. Before you guys lose your minds, Dragon Link slash and or Guard Dragon. I just feel that those strategies in general, they entail naturally a lot of the same engines, compact engines. You know, a lot of the main deck staples are pretty much going to be the same. The inboards look pretty similar. That's why I felt, why not just give them all the same spot? Because you could be like, oh, well, there's Dark Magician Guard Dragon, or there's like Red Eyes Guard Dragon. I was just like, no, anything Dragon Link, Guard Dragon, Rocket, you know, Rockets, everything, anything Dragon related that pertains to that strategy and that play style, that's aiming for that trajectory, they got number 9, because the deck has it has the results, the representation to back itself up. Also, we have to consider how well it did in the previous formats. Even though this is a new format, I always like to surmount the tops that a deck has accumulated as a whole, meaning since it's pretty much from the jump, since it's been initiated into the competitive forefront of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, that doesn't mean that the results it's got in the previous formats are going to make it a meta deck in today's current format. I'm talking about the tops that it's generated right now, right here and now in this current format. The deck is a really powerful deck. It is a monstrosity. It can establish boards very similar and reminiscent to Pendulums. But the issue with this deck is it doesn't have the same ceiling as Pendulums and other combo decks. It's probably one of the weakest combo decks, let's just be real. It's still a powerful deck, don't get me wrong, Crusadia, Guard Dragon, etc. But they have a lot of choke points, and it's really because the deck has so many fragile... it's fragmented incrementally. It's so fragile. It has so many choke points and so many points where the deck can just be blown out the water. Nibiru is just one of many examples. Well-timed Effect Veiler. You know, because it's so somewhat glass cannon, that's why I just can't go any higher on this list, because I mean this deck is really, really good. This deck's gonna put up a you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh board, and there's not very many decks that can combat that without access to their side decks. Let's just be realistic here. But unfortunately, with all of that intact and all the information I provided to you, it still goes to show that this deck has weaknesses that every other deck on this list just does not have. They don't have the same weaknesses, and due to that, that is the reason why the other 8 decks are at a higher scale and above this in the list. So coming at number 8, we also have Dinosaurs. Now, this is how you know it's not biased, because if you guys know me, I hate dinosaurs. I hate them with a passion. I'm a Yang Zing player. Dinlong got banned because of dinosaurs. I'm never letting it go. So you guys know that this is not biased when I say that dinos are still one of the best meta decks, period. I don't know, like, I guess what channel you guys watch or what content you guys watch, but I've been seeing dinos do a whole bunch of crazy nonsense. And I mean dinos in all variants included. That means True King dinos, Shaddoll dinos, Lost World dinos. Shaddoll dinos specifically have seen probably more success than all the other ones. But dinosaurs are just really, really powerful. I mean, this deck is like a nuclear reaction plant. It's like a nuclear reactor plant. It's just full of explosive power plays, bomb after bomb after bomb. All of your boss monsters are retarded. Conductor, I'm sorry, not retarded. That could come off as offensive. All your boss monsters are insane. Conductor is ridiculous. Overtext is ridiculous. Lagia, Dolka. It's not just the dino deck. It's not really about the dinosaurs. It's about what this deck makes. That's what makes this deck so good. It's about what it makes. Like, Pendulum's good just because it's Pendulum. Like, normal summoning an Overraptor is not going to do much for you, but it's just what this deck makes that makes it so powerful. Kind of like how, for example, Dragon Link. Like, Dragon Link, its main deck monsters really aren't that powerful, but they get converted into really strong threats, like extra deck monsters. Same thing with Dino. It's really what it makes that makes it so strong, and then also its main deck cards are just ridiculous. Miscellaneous Source is like, literally like a Called by the Grave on legs that just protects your entire field from disruptions, from hand traps, you know, anything really that would stop you from playing the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Miscellaneous Source can protect you from, including Nibiru, which is pretty insane that dinosaurs can play around Nibiru, because Nibiru's tribute is not cost, it's an effect, and if you try to Nibiru your opponent in the main phase, which is the only time you can, with the Miscellaneous Source up, good luck, have fun. But I do think dinosaurs are definitely, like, they have that strength, man. They just have strengths that other decks just don't have. Really good going first, insane going second. In fact, a lot of people prefer to place dinosaurs going second because Conductor is he's that guy. I mean, let's just be honest, bro. Ultimate Conductor Tyranno is considered to be one of the greatest boss monsters of all time. And that means since Yu-Gi-Oh's initial inception, Conductor is that respected and highly revered in the community. Of all these Yu-Gi-Oh players, we don't even have to play dinos. You say Conductor, somebody's in their feelings. Dinosaurs is number 8. Number 7, I gave it to Cyber Dragons. Now, Cyber Dragons, including Cyber Dragon Orcus, because believe it or not, Cyber Dragon Orcus is still very much so in the realm of possibility. It's a bit more convoluted. It's not as consistent. You're not going to get these pretty much applicable hands where everything just meshes together. Sometimes you have a hand where you have to pick, am I playing Cyber Dragons today or am I playing Orcus? But Cyber Dragon Orcus is still possible. I just want to share that with you guys. But I'm talking about Cyber Dragons as a whole and all variants that entails. That's including any hybrid variations of Cyber Dragons, anything Cyber Dragon related. Takes number 7. Cyber Dragon's an infamous monster, so infamous that Konami decides to give him his own strategy, his own archetype, his entire deck is like insane, you guys. I mean, it's like a meta call because Orcus, being as highly represented as it is, being one of the most popular decks of the entire Yu-Gi-Oh, pretty much this entire meta, this meta game, the previous format, you know, since Orcus Nightmare came out, Orcus have been doing some stuff, man, I'm telling you. And the fact that Cyber Dragon has such a good Orcus matchup, such a good Thunder matchup, such a good Striker matchup, such a good Salamangreat matchup, and a fairly decent Pendulum matchup, that's why I just felt that Cyber Dragons was just so much higher, just on just in the matter of tiers, and also the ceiling wise. I feel like Cyber Dragon's tier is higher than Grin Manjus and Dragon Links and Dinosaurs, and also that I was talking about tier, and then it's ceiling. The reason, and I'm not saying that Cyber Dragon is a better deck than these, because to each his own. Your opinion is yours, and you're entitled to it, just like I'm entitled to mine. But what I am saying is that Cyber Dragon's ceiling is higher than these decks, and it's not because Cyber Dragon's better than Dinosaur, Cyber Dragon is better than Guard Dragons or Grin Manju Turbo. It's just because Cyber Dragon has better matchups all across the playing field. Like I said, it's like an anti-meta. It's a meta call. It's a meta deck that does what meta decks are able to do, but also because of its inherent summoning conditions, its mechanics, and how Cyber Dragons just coherently play as a default without you doing anything else to it. You just play Cyber Dragons as they are. They are just naturally built, and just to counter the Orcus strategy, the Thunder strategy, Striker, Salad, and Pendulum. They are really, really good. It's not just the Mega Fleet, it's not just the Fortress, it's that you can main deck cards like the Kaijus, the Jizukirus, you know, the Cyber Eltonins, the fact that your OTK potential is through this roof. I mean, Cyber Dragon's OTK potential is ridiculous. You can search Inspector Border. I mean, this deck, it's really good. Cyber Dragons have proven themselves thoroughly, so definitely taking number 7. Most certainly. In number 6, before we get to the top 5, I decided to give number 6 to a wide variety of strategies that are all pretty much very similar in one way, shape, or form. I gave it to Draco, Guru Control, Altergeist, and Marine Cess. Now, all 4 of these strategies inherently are pretty slow starting off. Draco's probably the fastest, but their game plan and their strategies, their playstyles are very similar to each other. Why? Because these are control, stun-esque strategies. They're not going to be able to necessarily OTK you just out of nowhere, just going second. You know, these are decks that require a setup. You're going to set some back rows, and you're going to wait a turn to get your traps online. These decks are going to establish a board, but it's a different kind of board. It's a protect the castle board most of the time. The same with Marine Cess, Geist, Guru, Draco. These decks are trying to get to a certain setup, and when they get to that certain setup, each one of these 4 decks has a game plan that allows them to accumulate advantage, snowball out of control, cascading too. I'm telling you, it can be in bombardment of advantage. And they get to that point where now you have to either be playing at their pace to keep up with them. Good luck, have fun with all those floodgates, or you lose. And their pace seems slow. Like I said, slow to start up. That's just starting up. But once you get the ball rolling, these decks are really fast-paced. Altergeist are pretty quick. Marine Cess, Guru, Draco, all these decks are capable of OTKing after turn 1. Anything past turn 1, I'd say these decks are just as feasible and viable as any other meta contender on this list, because these decks are that good at what they do. Because there's 4 decks in the number 6 slot, I don't want to take that much time explaining each one of these archetypes individualistically, but because they embody the same pretty much playstyle, I felt that a lot of their characteristics had similarities. We might as well just include them all in the same subcategory. So number 6, I gave it to those 4 decks for good reason, and they all have their own representation and results to back up their standing. Now Marine Cess a little bit less more so, but Draco, Guru, and Geist most definitely, these are meta contenders. Now the top 5, I'm just gonna let you guys know right now. Coming in at number 5, I gave it to Pendulum and all variants that entails. It's not because Pendulum's a bad deck. It's not because Pendulum's not good. It's not because Pendulum sucks. It's not because Pendulum's this. It has nothing to do with Pendulum being inferior or it being inconsistent or it not being powerful enough. It has everything to do with what? Representation and results. What I see more out of these top 5 decks that I'm talking about right now, what I see more being played than anything is the other 4. not Pendulum. Would I see more topping results in YCSs and regionals? Is the other 4, not Pendulum. So I'm not saying, because personally, in my opinion, I feel that Pendulum is more capable than a lot of these decks on this list, in this top 5 that I'm talking about. But just simply because I can't be biased and I can't just value my opinion as it's actually a fact, which is not, I have to just stick with representation and results. And I'm sorry, Pendulums just have not seen the same success as these other 4 decks. But it doesn't take away from Pendulum's power. It doesn't take away from Pendulum's ceiling, its capabilities. This deck is a you can't play deck. It's like a you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh kind of deck. It's going to establish a board that should not be broken. And there's so many different ways to play Pendulum. There's so many different Pendulum archetypes and strategies. There is no set stone blueprint on how you should build this deck. That's what gives it that flexibility, and the versatile, pretty much splashable engines that you can play in this deck really are what make it that much more powerful, because you can have a Pendulum deck that instantly becomes stronger just by incorporating the Endymion cards. Its ceiling instantly raises just by incorporating Mythical Beast or Zephyr Engine. You know, it's that kind of deck that it can only get better. It's only going to get stronger. It's only going to grow in power and increase in its strength, and ceiling's going to raise. But right now it's number 5. And it's Pendulum, dude. I'm not going to say too much about it. Not much more than I've already said. Pendulum definitely deserves to be in a higher slot, but it has not seen the same success. In number 4, I gave it to Salamangreat. Now, the reason why I gave it to Salamangreat, even though Salamangreat, some would argue and say Salamangreat deserves to be higher on this list. Now I beg to differ, because the last 3 on this list, regardless of the order that you want to guess, is Orcus, Thunder, and Striker. Now, how I view Orcus, Thunder, and Striker and Salamangreats as a whole, I do feel personally, and this is my opinion, that Salamangreats is the weakest of the 4, but its longevity, its consistency, its grind game, its recovery, recuperation, and its ability to play going first or second, it's not necessarily second to none, and it is rivaled by the capabilities of those other decks. But I will say that while it may do a few of those a little bit worse than some of those other decks, it's the fact that it's able to do all of those exceptional that makes it that deck. Because don't get me wrong, like I said, everything I mentioned, consistency, power, recovery, you know, its capabilities of going first or second, you know, Thunder, Orcus, Striker, you know, all those decks, they have those capabilities. But the thing is, some of those decks don't have all of them. Like Orcus, Thunder, and Striker don't have all of those. But the thing with Salamangreat is it has all of them. We call it the Jack of all trades deck for a reason. Jack of all trades, master of none. Salamangreat is really good at doing a whole bunch of different variable, you know, versatile things that it depends on, you know, the mindset of the player, the situation you're in, what the board, you know, what the game state is. But Salamangreat can get out of so many different binds, and the deck's capable of winning YCSs, regionals, you know, you name it, worlds. It won worlds. Salamangreat has proven itself over time that it is one of the best decks of the format. And even if you took the Gazelle and the Circle out the equation, I still feel that this deck would be viable with no Gazelle and no Circle. That's how good I feel this deck is. So Salamangreat takes number 4, and representation and results do back it up. Now, I will say that Salamangreat at one point in time in our format, in this Yu-Gi-Oh game we're talking about, was getting more tops than any other deck ever. Like, I'm talking, Striker wasn't even topping events the way Salamangreat was. And to this day, I do feel that that is why Salamangreat will always be, I guess, considered and revered to be one of the greatest decks. So now, in number 3, I gave it to Sky Striker. Now, I didn't give it to Sky Striker because they're bad or because they're worse than the other decks. It's kind of the same thing, you know. Of the top 5, that's what's so difficult about the top 5 meta decks. The reason why they are the best 5 decks is not just because they're head and shoulders above the rest. It's also because of how good these decks are against each other. The playing field's very leveled. It's not so one-sided. Like, for example, Orcus might have a better Thunder matchup, but then on the flip side, it might have a worse Sky Striker matchup. You get what I'm saying? So these decks, it's kind of like this check and power. It's like this balance of check and power. No one deck is going to be so insane that it can't be checked by the other deck. So all these are interchangeable, and they can all beat each other. Thunder's not so insane that Striker can't beat it. Striker's not so insane that Thunder can't beat it, so on and so forth. So Striker takes number 3, and I do not want to talk about Sky Striker because it's been spoken up on so much, and we just know what this deck does. It's been around for a while, not as long as these other decks, but just because we know what Sky Striker is, we know what it does, we're not surprised that Widow Anchor going to 1 didn't change things for it. It's Sky Strikers, and it's not going anywhere. This deck is, I'd say, the most versatile. In the terms of its toolbox, its arsenal, Sky Striker probably has the most versatile arsenal and toolbox just out of all these, because this deck is literally a toolbox. I mean, it literally is a toolbox. It's a spell toolbox. I mean, this deck has a spell with almost any generic effect you can think of. It's a really solid control deck. It's capable of doing it all. It doesn't matter what situation Striker's in. Striker just somehow always finds a way, and it's you know, the same could be said about Salamangreat. And now in number 2, I did give it to Thunder, and that's all variants that's included. That means anything Thunder Dragon related, including Thunder Dragon Link, Danger Thunder, Sekka Thunder, you name it. Thunder, 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 whatever it is. If it's Thunder, number 2. The reason why I felt that Thunder was the second strongest deck of the format, and not lower. Some people would have put Salamangreat and Strikers higher than Thunder. But the reason why is because I feel, like Cyber Dragons, Thunder is that anti-meta meta. It's that mesh of, it's a meta deck, it's very popular, but also it's literally a hard counter to some of the best strategies. Like, for example, it's really difficult for Strikers to play against Thunder. Not impossible, but it can be really difficult because some of their best cards search. For Pendulum, it can be difficult. For Salamangreat, it can be difficult. For Draco, for Guru, for... I want to say Marine Cess, but not really. For Cyber Dragon, for Dinos, for almost all 10 of these best decks that I'm talking about right now, like, just Colossus alone has such a high ceiling in all those matchups. And excluding Colossus, because Colossus is probably the most... it's like the poster child card for the Thunder Dragon archetype. We always, when we think of Thunder, we consider Colossus, but... excluding Colossus, Thunder Dragon as a whole, its deck and its arsenal, its toolbox, what it's able to do, it's a really powerful deck. It's a very, very powerful and really, really, for me personally, I feel that deck's really aggressive. It's a control deck, but it has that it has that umph. It's like the perfect control deck almost, because it's as aggressive as a control deck can be, but also it can play at a slow tempo, and it can manipulate and manage its resources and maintain it and keep it on par and adequate. Pretty much with the same speed and or gameplay as other control decks. So it kind of has that mix in between where it's like it's a really good mixture of like combo slash control. It's kind of like that embodiment, because it feels like a combo deck in certain times, and then other times when you're playing it, you feel like you're playing control. But it's that mixture of both that makes it so good. It's that good in between medium that puts Thunder where it stands right now, because it's very flexible. It's so many different ways you can play it. There's a lot of different Thunder variants. The Thunder cards are really good. Its grind game is insane. Its recovery is pretty strong if you do play Thunder Dragon Fusion. The fact that the deck can search out the Thunder type Kaiju and the Dinko Sekka just raise the ceiling even higher. You know, this deck is just really, really good at what it does, and it's proven that it can beat any deck if played by the right player. Now, in number 1, it's Orcus, dude. Orcus are just cutting up, bro. I mean, Orcus are just tearing everybody's booty holes up, bro. Orcus have just been dominating. I mean, dude, I don't even have to explain how good this deck is. I don't. Because somehow, some way, it literally, this is such a weird effect, and I always question people, and I ask them, how is it that Orcus got weaker and weaker and weaker as an engine, but got stronger and stronger as a deck, and as a result ended up becoming the best deck? When people started to respect the Orcus cards and play it as a deck as it was intended to be played, they started to realize and really hit that epiphany that, dang, pure Orcus is the best deck. Not a Mermaid Turbo deck, not a deck splashing Orcus in it, just pure Orcus. Because we lost Summon Sork, we lost Rusty, we lost the rank up, dude, you know, we lost Mermaid. The Orcus as an engine, or even if you're playing pure Orcus with all those cards, lost a lot of power. So I'll say it like this: Orcus on the surface seemed to get weaker and weaker because it lost some of its best cards multiple times. It got hit like 3 or 4 times. You know, it lost cards that we were playing in the strategy. As a result, somehow, some way, it got power crept, right? Pseudo power crept, and then came on top, and now it's the best deck. Literally, it's the best deck. It is the best deck. It's winning like every event. Like, if it's not winning every event, it's like 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. It's in the top cut of every event. Just like the other 5. Just like the other 4 in the top 5. All these decks, you're going to see them in the top cut of almost every event. Some events, you don't see any of them. Like, some events, you'll be like, dang, there was, like, no Pendulum. I would say this. Really, it's Salad, Striker, Thunder, and Orcus that you see everywhere. Some events, I don't see Pendulum anywhere. It's weird to say because Pendulum's so good, but it's really, Pendulum's also, like, a preference. I feel like it's an acquired taste. But Orcus, dude, yeah. They're the best deck, bro. And that's your top 10. I really hope you guys enjoyed this in-depth video. Hopefully, you guys were patient enough to stick it through to the end and watch the video. But I understand if you just want to skim through it. Totally understandable. I'm not offended. God bless you guys. Make good choices. Don't hurt your brain cells. Stay tuned for future content. You folks have a wonderful day. And remember, I currently reside in Las Vegas now. So things are a little bit different. And there was a good reason why I wasn't able to upload every single day. Because I have a life outside of Yu-Gi-Oh! And there's a lot of stuff going on behind scenes that people didn't know about. But peace.